My husband was in a car accident, which resulted in the amputation of his left leg and left arm. His cherished first love took one look at him and immediately cut all ties. My husband grew to resent me, blaming me for signing the surgical consent form. He claimed that if I hadn't agreed to the surgery, there might have been a chance to save his limbs later. While I was asleep, he turned on the gas, determined to end us both. Thankfully, I was given a second chance. I was reborn this time. I'll do exactly as he said and refused to consent to the surgery. If he wants to die, I won't stop him, but he can forget about taking me with him. I received a call from the hospital informing me that my husband, Yang Yuntian, had been in a serious car accident and that I needed to come immediately. I agreed without hesitation, saying I was on my way, but after hanging up the phone, I had absolutely no intention of moving. Instead, I turned on a mindless variety show and started eating the luxurious Japanese takeout that had just been delivered. I wasn't the least bit worried that my tardiness would affect my husband's treatment because this was the second time I'd been through this in my previous life. After receiving the call from the hospital, I rushed over in a panic. The doctor told me that Yang Yuntian's car had collided with a truck, the truck had overturned, and the left side of his body had been crushed under heavy debris for an extended period. Amputation was the only way to save his life. Faced with the choice between living with disabilities and dying whole, I decisively chose the former. After an 8-hour surgery, Yang Yuntian was successfully saved. However, he lost his left leg and left arm in the process, but Yang Yuntian couldn't accept this outcome. He blamed me for meddling, insisting that doctors always exaggerate the severity. He was convinced he could have survived without the amputations. My mother-in-law, Zhao Hohot, chimed in, claiming doctors have performance quotas and make more money from surgeries and treatments like amputations. She said I'd been completely fooled. Because of this, Yang Yuntian always held a grudge against me. This was especially true after his beloved White Moonlight, Liang Ranran, saw him in that state and was utterly horrified. She immediately cut all ties with Yang Yuntian and vanished without a trace. After that, Yang Yuntian became even more volatile and aggressive. He told me he had waited so long for Liang Ranran to get divorced, finally seeing a chance for them to be together, and I was the one who ruined it all. I made allowances for him, understanding he was in a bad place after the amputation, so I didn't argue. I just told him to calm down. If he wanted a divorce, I would grant it. Little did I know, what awaited me wasn't forgiveness or divorce papers, but Yang Yuntian's decision to end us both. I died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Now that I've been given a second chance at life, I'm certainly not going to make things hard for myself again. Didn't Yang Yuntian claim that if I hadn't agreed to the surgery, he could have survived intact? Well, I'll be watching with great interest. Let's see what proves more reliable, modern medicine, or Yang Yuntian's sheer arrogance. He's the kind of person who won't believe it until he sees the coffin. And then there's my mother-in-law, Zhao Hohot. She's always saying I'm naive and easily scammed. This time, I'm staying out of it. I'm letting her, the seasoned veteran, handle everything. Let's see if she can outsmart the scammers. After finishing my meal, I saw I still had plenty of time, so I treated myself to a nice, long nap too. When I woke up and checked my phone, sure enough, there were 99 plus missed calls, all from Zhao Hohot. Figuring the timing was about right, I made myself look properly disheveled, then hailed a cab to the hospital. My look was so convincing that even the taxi driver asked if I'd been beaten up and if I needed him to call the police. I said, no need. The person who did this is in the hospital right now, fighting for his life, probably not for much longer. The driver tried to comfort me, saying, what goes around comes around, things will get better for you. I replied, yeah, that's what I'm counting on. When I arrived at the hospital room, I saw Yang Yuntian lying motionless in the bed, and there was my mother-in-law, Zhao Hohot, wailing her heart out beside him. It seems Yang Yuntian got his wish. After all, to die rather than lose a limb. He managed to keep his arms and legs intact, all in one piece when he met his maker. Looking at Yang Yuntian's lifeless face, I felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. In a roundabout way, I helped him achieve his goal. Who's to say that isn't a form of charity? Upon seeing me, Zhao Hohot's sobbing ceased for a moment. She shouted at me, you jinx, what took you so long? Did you deliberately try to get your husband killed? Your husband was in a car accident, and instead of rushing to the hospital to take care of him, where on earth did you run off to? I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand, which I'd dabbed with chilly water, and said with profound grief, I was driving here, but my car broke down halfway. I couldn't get a taxi the whole way, so I had to walk. But I hadn't gone far before I tripped and fell, scraped my knee and twisted my ankle. That's why I was so slow. Zhao Hohot said, do you have any idea? Because you weren't here. There was no one to sign the surgical consent form for my son. That's why he died, because the surgery was delayed. You killed him. Puzzled, I asked, Mom, weren't you at the hospital the whole time? Couldn't you have signed the consent form? Why won't you sign? Yoon Tae-on is your own son. Tell me, are you deliberately trying to kill him? My mother-in-law protested. That's nonsense. How could I possibly kill my own son? I said. Then why? Why wouldn't you sign the surgical consent form for Yoon Tae-on? Poor Yoon Tae-on. He was killed by his own mother. The bystanders who had been watching couldn't hold back any longer. Your mother-in-law said the amputation wasn't necessary at all, that he just needed time to heal. She also said the doctors were exaggerating the consequences to scare her, just to make money. She said she just wouldn't sign, and dared the hospital to do something about it. Zhao Hohot said, he's lying. The doctor never told me signing was absolutely necessary, or that my son would die if I didn't. It's their fault for not explaining clearly. It was the people in this hospital who conspired to kill my son. A nurse stepped forward. I knew it. I knew when things went wrong you'd turn around and blame our hospital. When you said all that, we recorded the whole thing. You can't twist the truth with just a few words. After saying this, the nurse opened her phone and played back Zhao Hohot's unreasonable and outrageous statements. I threw myself at Yoon Tae's hospital bed, shaking his lifeless body and weeping bitterly. Yoon Tae-on, your fate was so cruel. To be killed by your own mother's ignorance. She was always unreasonable and impossible to deal with. You said all parents mean well, and told me to just put up with it. How could I have ever imagined that my own concessions would ultimately lead to her taking your life? I was still in the middle of my earnest performance when I heard a sharp gasp from the crowd. It turned out that Zhao Hohot had fainted. Actually, Zhao Hohot had always suffered from high blood pressure. She was already devastated by her son's death, and then to suddenly be accused of causing it. It was no wonder the shock made her collapse. The doctor administered first aid quickly, then turned to me and said, the patient is suspected of having a cerebral hemorrhage. There's a possibility of total paralysis. You need to prepare yourself. I stood there frozen, completely at a loss for how to react. The onlookers all praised me for my loyalty and compassion, even though my husband had died because of my mother-in-law. I was still so heartbroken upon hearing she was ill. They were all mistaken, though. It wasn't heartbreak. It was sheer shock, because I saw a translucent Yoon Tae-on, kneeling on the ground and clutching Zhao Hohot, weeping bitterly. If Yoon Tae's corpse hadn't been lying right there on the bed, I would have thought he'd come back from the dead. What's going on here? Did I shake Yoon Tae's corpse so hard that I rattled his soul loose and it condensed into a ghost? And judging by everyone else's reactions, they can't see Yoon Tae's ghost or hear his voice. Things just got interesting. While Zhao Hohot was in the hospital, I quickly called the crematorium and told them to come pick up Yoon Tae's body for cremation right away. After Yoon Tae's body was wheeled into the furnace, a staff member told me to go pick out an urn. I gave the price list a perfunctory glance and said, no need to buy one, I've got one ready. Then I held up the takeout container I was carrying. I said, you see, my husband loved takeout more than anything when he was alive. Putting his ashes in this will make him feel more at home. Even the seasoned crematorium staff were visibly stunned by my words. Once they realized I wasn't joking, they stammered, that container, it's a bit too small. I don't think it'll all fit. I said, it's fine, just put in as much as you can. We can leave the rest. After Yoon Tae was cremated, I took a takeout container and went to the waiting room. When I entered, I saw Yoon Tae's ghost weeping over his own ashes. If I hadn't wanted to keep my ability to see ghosts a secret from him, I would have given him a piece of my mind right then. Wasn't he the one who always said it was better to die with dignity than live without it? So what's with all this melodrama now? Whatever, I'll just ignore him and get on with what I came to do. Yoon Tae was right in the middle of his grieving when he spotted the takeout container in my hand and started cursing me out. Ji Chinga, you vicious woman, how could you use this to hold my ashes? I paid him no mind and proceeded to scoop his ashes, bit by bit, into the container. The attendant was right, the box couldn't hold it all. I just had them dispose of the remainder. When I came out with the ashes, I was shocked to find that Yoon Tae's ghost was missing an arm and a leg, the left side, to be precise. What a coincidence. So the ashes I just discarded were from his injured left leg and left hand. It really feels like fate at work. So it seems Yoon Tae's ghost is tethered to his ashes, and it's tied to specific body parts. Unbelievable. Yoon Tae couldn't be a whole man in life, and now he can't even be a whole ghost in death. I wonder if he regrets the choices he made. With only one leg left, Yoon Tae could only hop along, stumbling several times as he wasn't used to it. I deliberately slowed my pace to wait for him. After all, This ghost of his is going to be very useful to me. After leaving the crematorium, I didn't go home or back to the hospital. I went straight to Liang Ranran's place. I've got a score to settle, for Liang Ranran's place was actually provided by Yang Yuntian. After her divorce, Liang Ranran was left homeless, as her devoted lapdog. Yang Yuntian naturally handed over his own apartment without a second thought. However, that apartment was purchased after Yang Yuntian and I got married. Any property transfer would require my consent. That's why the ownership was never officially transferred. It's still under Yang Yuntian's name. A property under Yang Yuntian's name is essentially mine, isn't it? I have every right to deal with it as I see fit. The door lock was the original one, though the passcode had long been changed. No matter. When I left home, I had already taken the physical key to that lock with me. I used the key to unlock the door. I had only one purpose for being here, to find the gold bars Yang Yuntian had hidden ever since Liang Ranran got divorced. She's been entangled with Yang Yuntian. Liang Ranran was the unattainable white moonlight of Yang Yuntian's youth, so he quickly made his choice between her and me. But he didn't want me to get half of his assets in the divorce, so he secretly liquidated a portion of his wealth, converted it into gold bars, and hid them at Liang Ranran's place. He was just waiting to finalize the divorce with me before retrieving that fortune. Unfortunately, before he could successfully divorce me, he got into a car accident first. In my past life, the moment Liang Ranran saw what a wreck Yang Yuntian had become, she immediately backed out and cut all ties with him. But she never breathed a word about the gold bars, keeping the entire stash for herself. Lost in his grief, Yang Yuntian naturally didn't think to pursue the matter, allowing Liang Ranran to achieve financial freedom just like that. This time, I won't let her have her way. I'm going to find those gold bars first and move them. As for how to find them, I'm not worried in the slightest. This place isn't that big. Even if I have to tear it apart board by board, I'll find them in a couple of days. But now I don't have to go through all that trouble, because I've got this cheat code in the form of Yang Yuntian's ghost. Ever since we entered this room, Yang Yuntian has been incredibly tense. He must be desperate to leave those gold bars for Liang Ranran, which is why he's so afraid I'll find them. He has no idea I can see him, so he's just been circling a wardrobe in the bedroom, trying to open its door but unable to touch anything physical. It looks like the gold bars are hidden in this wardrobe. I deliberately rummaged around a bit, then pretended to casually open that wardrobe. I searched every corner of the wardrobe but couldn't find a trace of the gold bars. Luckily, I had Yang Yuntian as my little hint giver. He kept muttering about how exquisitely crafted the wardrobe's secret compartment was, and that I'd never find it. A secret compartment. If he hadn't said anything, I probably wouldn't have noticed, but since he did, I quickly realized one of the drawers had odd dimensions. The interior of this drawer was much smaller than it appeared from the outside, so I gave it a tap and discovered another layer beneath the drawer. When I opened it, a dazzling golden light instantly filled my vision. There were gold bars here, each weighing 1 kilogram, and a full 100 of them. I quickly pulled out my travel bag and stuffed all the gold bars inside. As for Yang Yuntian's ashes, I simply didn't have the strength to carry them, so I left them right there. It was just as well. He'd been cursing up a storm, and I didn't want to listen to it anyway. Normally, lifting 100 pounds at the gym feels like a death sentence, but here I was, carrying 200 pounds of gold, and I was practically flying. I took the gold bars home, locked them in the safe, and then called a moving company. I gave them Liang Ranran's address and told them to get over there ASAP. I even paid a 30% premium to make it happen. By the time Liang Ranran got home that night, her place was almost completely cleared out. 5. Liang Ranran blocked the movers, demanding they stop immediately. Who are you people? What gives you the right to take my things? Do you even know this is trespassing? I'm calling the police. I stepped out of the room and said, your personal belongings are in my house. If anyone's trespassing here, it's you. Liang Ranran shouted. That's a lie. This is clearly my home. All the neighbors can vouch for me. I held up the property deed and said to her, see this, the owner is Yang Yuntian. Then I took out the marriage certificate, and look here, I'm Yang Yuntian's lawfully wedded wife, the kind recognized by the state. No matter how you look at it, this house has nothing to do with you. You keep insisting it's yours. Do you have any proof? Liang Ranran said. Gee, Chinga, just because you can't keep your man under control, you're taking it out on me. Yang Yuntian lent me this place, so it's mine. I said. Yang Yuntian isn't out of his mind. Why on earth would he lend you his house? Liang Ranran said. Because I'm the one he's been in love with for years. I scoffed. Oh, you say so. So it must be true. You've got some nerve. Humph. Gee Chinga, don't get cocky. I'm calling Yuntian right now. If he finds out how you're bullying me, he'll make you pay for it. With that, she dialed Yang Yuntian's number. The call went straight to a disconnected tone. I said, "No need to call, Yang Yuntian is right here." As I spoke, I held up the takeout container holding his ashes. "See, he's all here." Well, not all here. The box was too small. I had to toss what didn't fit. Liang Ranran slapped the container out of my hand. "Jichinga, no wonder Yuntian always said you were petty. Just because he showed me some concern, you get jealous, but how could you wish your own husband dead?" I glanced at the urn on the floor, then at Yang Yuntian, whose spirit had just flickered violently. Thankfully, the container had a lid, so the ashes didn't spill, otherwise, his ghost might have lost another piece of itself. I produced another document I had prepared in advance. "This is Yang Yuntian's death certificate. Take a good look at the name and date, then you'll know I'm telling the truth." Seeing the death certificate, Liang Ranran finally realized I wasn't joking, but she wasn't grieving his death. Her mind had already jumped to the gold bars hidden in her room. "Jichinga, I can give the house back to you, but I must retrieve my belongings from inside. You have no right to dispose of my personal property," I said. "I haven't disposed of anything. All your stuff is on the moving company's truck. Not a single item is missing. If you want it, you'd better hurry. I only paid the moving company for 1 day of storage. Any overtime fees will be your responsibility. Of course, if you don't believe me, you're welcome to go in and check for yourself. See if any of your personal items are left." Hearing this, Liang Ranran immediately rushed inside, heading straight for the large wardrobe where the gold bars were hidden. She, of course, found nothing. Ignoring Liang Ranran's curses, I forced her out. Then I secured the door with a brand new heavy-duty chain lock. Yang Yuntian, who had witnessed the whole scene, kept berating me too. He called me vicious, underhanded, and ruthless. He just kept repeating the same few insults. I was sick of hearing them. Once I got home, I tossed his ashes into the storage room and shut the door. Yang Yuntian's ghost couldn't open the door, so he was trapped there. I finally had some peace and quiet, but my peace didn't last long. The police showed up at my door the very next day. 6. Liang Ranran had filed a report, accusing me of stealing her belongings. I said, "Officer, this is a terrible injustice. My husband and I bought that apartment with our marital assets, furniture, and all. For whatever reason, she was living there rent-free. I let that slide, but how could she turn around and make such a false accusation? She claims my husband let her stay there for free, but he's passed away now. It's her word against a ghost's, but I'm not even pressing that issue. I didn't ask her for back rent for all that time. I just asked her to move out." "I've been more than reasonable," the officer said. "MSG, regardless of the circumstances, you had her possessions removed. Now that items are reported missing, we have to open an investigation. We need your cooperation," I said. "Cooperate? Absolutely. I hired a professional moving company. They provide full video documentation of the entire process. If you don't believe me, check their surveillance footage." I did not take a single thing of Liang Ranran's. Liang Ranran said, "If you were going to steal, you wouldn't do it with an audience. You could have gone in first, taken what you wanted, and then called the movers. How would their cameras catch what you stole before they even arrived?" I said. "After all this talk, what exactly did you lose?" Liang Ranran said, "Gold bars. A full 100 kilograms of gold bars." I said. "Liang Ranran, as far as I know, you left with nothing when you divorced your ex-husband, and your parents are just ordinary salaried workers. How could you possibly have that much gold? You can't just file a false report to frame me. That's a serious waste of police resources." Liang Ranran said. "I'm not lying. I really did lose 100 kilograms of gold bars." I said. "You saying so doesn't make it true. Why should I believe you? How about you show me the purchase receipts and payment records for these gold bars? If your property is genuinely missing, I'm willing to cooperate with the investigation. But if you can't produce any evidence, it proves you're lying. You filed a false report on purpose just to frame me." Liang Ranran was speechless, because she simply couldn't produce the purchase receipts or payment records for those gold bars. All those gold bars were purchased by Yang Yuntian, and because he was afraid they'd be traced during the asset division, he didn't buy them through legitimate channels. Even if Yang Yuntian himself showed up, he wouldn't be able to produce the purchase receipts. Seeing Liang Ranran stammering and unable to provide any evidence, the police immediately realized she was lying. Liang Ranran was severely reprimanded by the police officers. They also warned her that if there was a next time, she would be put in a detention center to teach her a proper lesson. Liang Ranran said to me resentfully, "I know you're the one who took that money. Just you wait, I won't let this go." It wasn't long before I found out what Liang Ranran's not letting it go actually meant. She showed up at my house, pushing my paralyzed mother-in-law along with her. Although Zhao Hohot was paralyzed, her ability to speak was unaffected. She said, Jiqing'a, Ranran is pregnant with Yuntian's child. You need to transfer all of Yuntian's money into Ranran's name immediately, and transfer the property titles to her as well. This child is Yuntian's only bloodline. Everything of his must be given to her. Only then can I rest in peace when I die. I looked at Liang Ranran's stomach with a skeptical expression. 7. This never happened in my past life. Was it Liang Ranran from the previous life who deceived Yang Yuntian? Or is it the Liang Ranran of this life who is deceiving Zhao Hohot? But none of that matters anymore. Whether this child truly exists or not, he won't be getting any benefit from it. I said, Mom, don't let yourself be fooled. How can you prove the child she's carrying is Yuntian's? Did you get a paternity test done between the child and Yuntian? Liang Ranran said, you had Yang Yuntian cremated. What am I supposed to use for the test? I said, so you have no proof then, but it's fine, I don't really care. If you say it's his, then it's his. Zhao Hohot said, smart move, now hurry up and hand over all of Yuntian's assets. I said, Mom, I couldn't bring myself to tell you this before, but Yuntian didn't actually leave any money behind. Zhao Hohot yelled, impossible, my son ran such a big company, how could he have no money? Don't think you can take advantage of me just because I can't walk. If you know what's good for you, you'll hand over the money right now, or I'll take you to court. I said, no need for all that trouble, the lawyer has actually been trying to reach you. I just saw you were still in the hospital and wanted you to rest properly, so I told the lawyer not to bother you. Now that you're discharged, you should go see the lawyer right away. By the way, I've already signed a declaration renouncing my inheritance from Yang Yuntian. I don't want to be saddled with all that debt for such a paltry estate. If you want to inherit Yang Yuntian's estate, you'd better hurry. I don't care how you split it, I'm out of the picture. Liang Ranran said, don't think you can scare us with that talk. Let me tell you, I'm claiming Yuntian's estate. Even if he really owed money, I'll pay it back for him. I won't let Yang Yuntian be remembered as dishonest, even in death. He shouldn't leave behind a tarnished name. With that, the hysterical duo stormed off, acting as if they'd already achieved their goal. Do they not believe me about Yang Yuntian's debts outweighing his assets? That doesn't make sense. Zhao Hohot might not know the real situation, but shouldn't Liang Ranran know? To hide his assets, Yang Yuntian had long since transferred his company's shares and even fabricated loan documents. All that's left in his name now are 2 properties, and they're not even enough to cover his debts. To inherit the estate, you first have to take on the debts, and the declared debts far outweigh the assets. You'd have to be out of your mind to want Yang Yuntian's inheritance, but I'm different. I'm sitting on 100 kilos of gold bars. Why would I wade into that mess? How I wish Liang Ranran and Zhao Hohot would lose their minds and choose to inherit it. Then those two would be shackled together, living a life of utter misery. Unfortunately, Liang Ranran is a sane person. The moment she realized there was absolutely nothing to gain from the books, she took off. She didn't even bother to get her immobile comrade in arms home before she fled. When the lawyer called and asked me to come collect Zhao Hohot, I felt a pang of regret. I went to pick up Zhao Hohot, albeit reluctantly. For a scene like this, I couldn't keep it all to myself. I had to bring Yang Yuntian's ashes along, let him witness firsthand the heartlessness of his beloved. I arrived at the law firm to find Zhao Hohot waiting right outside the entrance. 8. The lawyer explained to me, we tried to have her wait inside, but she kept hurling abuse, accusing us of stealing her son's money. She was disturbing the other clients. Also, she has mobility issues and can't get to the bathroom on her own, so the smell is just overpowering. The room isn't ventilated, and we really had no other choice. I said, I understand. I don't blame you. By the way, what about that Liang Ranran who came with my mother-in-law? Didn't she say she was going to help pay off my husband's debts? How come she ran off? The lawyer said, well, ran off might be a bit strong. Before she left, she did threaten us. She claimed Yang Yuntian's assets and liabilities don't match up, accusing us of embezzling his money. She said she'd find another lawyer to sue us. Who knows how she calculated it, or why she's so convinced the numbers don't add up. The lawyer's words gave me an idea. I stared at Yang Yuntian's ghost for a long time. I had a feeling Yang Yuntian might have left me a few more surprises, but I noticed something odd about Zhao Hohot. She hadn't said a word since I arrived. If her eyes weren't moving, I'd have thought she was dead. I wheeled the foul-smelling Zhao Hohot to the hospital. Taking a cab was out of the question. No driver would have taken us. Luckily, the hospital wasn't far. After examining her, the doctor told me she had suffered a shock that worsened her condition, and she had lost the ability to speak. Even though Liang Ranran ran off, a kind and considerate daughter-in-law like me would never leave my mother-in-law out on the streets, but expecting me to personally wait on her hand and foot, not a chance. I simply hired a flatbed truck and hauled Zhao Hohot back to her hometown. The house back home was paid for by us and was completely renovated just a couple of years ago. The living conditions are actually quite decent, I said to Zhao Hohot. Mom, even though Yun Tian is gone, and I'm not legally obligated to care for you, I'm not heartless, don't worry. As long as I have food on my table, you'll have a bowl of porridge, but... You know Yun Tian left behind quite a bit of debt. The place we're living in now has to be sold off to pay the creditors, and we'll be evicted soon. Luckily, this house in your hometown is still under your name, so you can stay here for good. The medical care around here might be a bit lacking, but it's a nice place to live. The thing is, we can't just live off our savings. I need to go out and earn money. Besides, I'm all thumbs. I'm afraid I wouldn't take good care of you, so I've decided to hire someone diligent to come help. I wouldn't trust a stranger. I think it's best to find someone familiar. How about Yang Yuntian's eldest aunt? You two have been sisters-in-law for so many years, you must be close. I'd feel much better with her looking after you. Zhao Hohot made muffled, whimpering sounds. I said on purpose. I knew you'd be pleased. Yang Yuntian's aunt was notoriously lazy, and she and Zhao Hohot had had more than their fair share of arguments over the years. The aunt had a favorite saying, just you wait until you're at my mercy one day. Well, they say you should dream big. Looks like her chance finally came under the aunt's care. Zhao Hohot began to waste away. At first, the aunt seemed a bit sheepish when she saw me, but once she realized I wasn't questioning her methods, she gradually understood where I stood. After all, in all the years since I married Yang Yuntian, Zhao Hohot had played the role of the wicked mother-in-law to perfection. It's no surprise I held no affection for her. I made a deal with the aunt, 3,000 yuan a month, paid 6 months in advance. Once everything was settled, I headed home. Of course, I took Yang Yuntian's ashes with me. 9 all the way. Yang Yuntian's ghost kept chattering nonstop. You took so many gold bars, you clearly had the money. Why did you lie to my mom and say you didn't have the time? With my mom's temperament, she finds fault with everything. Do you really think she and my aunt could get along? You should have been the one to take care of her yourself, I said. Oh, so what? Just because your aunt couldn't stand your mom, you think I can? Yang Yuntian was shocked. You can hear me, I said. Not only can I hear you, I can see your ghost too. Yang Yuntian asked. Since when could you see me? Why didn't you say something sooner? I said. Sooner? If I had, would you have ever let me find out about the gold bars you buried in the courtyard back home? Yang Yuntian was horrified. You know, I said, I didn't, originally, but I have to thank Liang Ranran. She pointed out that your assets and liabilities didn't match up. That made me suspect you might have had another stash of gold, one even Liang Ranran didn't know about. Even though your car was wrecked, I checked the ETC toll records and found out you made a trip back to your hometown not long ago, but you never told a soul about it. So, I used the excuse of taking your mother back to her hometown to bring you along. Well, persistence pays off. I figured it out when I saw you circling that peach tree in the yard. Otherwise, why do you think I locked you in the cellar yesterday? Because I wanted to see if I could dig up the treasure. And guess what? I actually found it. Yang Yuntian was hopping mad. Jiqingya, I really underestimated you. So you've had your eye on my money all along, I said. It's our marital property. If I don't keep an eye on it, should I just hand it over to Liang Ranran? You're a real piece of work. When you were alive, you were wary of Liang Ranran and hid part of the money. After you died, you suddenly want to give her your heart and soul. You even plan to appear in her dreams after receiving offerings. Too bad. I'm certainly not burning any paper money for you. And it looks like Liang Ranran hasn't either. Yang Yuntian said. Liang Ranran is carrying my child. Of course I have to make plans for her. I said. You're a ghost now. And you're still this naive. Liang Ranran was never pregnant in the first place. The reason she divorced her husband wasn't because of domestic violence, but because she was caught red-handed having an affair. That's the only reason she'd agreed to leave with nothing. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what kind of person Liang Ranran is. I brought Yang Yuntian's ghost to a hotel, just in time to witness a wife catching her husband's mistress in the act. That mistress was Liang Ranran ever since she disappeared. I hired a private investigator to track her down. I discovered that Liang Ranran had already found herself a new sugar daddy. Of course I wasn't going to let her off easy. I mailed the man's wife photos of Liang Ranran on their dates and even tipped her off about their next rendezvous. And wouldn't you know it, the timing was perfect. Word is, this guy owes his fortune to his wife, and her family are big names in the underworld. Liang Ranran is in for a world of hurt. When Yang Yuntian saw Liang Ranran's flat stomach, he realized he had truly been Deceived, he cried like a fool. He told me he felt he had no more ties to this world. He asked if I could find someone to perform rites for his soul so he could be reincarnated. I said, I don't think that's a good idea. You're leaving this world so young, without having experienced its beauty. I plan to take your ashes on a trip around the world, so you'll have no regrets. Yang Yuntian was deeply moved. He said that I must be the one who cared for him most in this world. I thought to myself, you'll regret saying that very soon. Afterwards, I did take Yang Yuntian's ashes to many places, but at each destination, I would scatter a portion of them. His ghost, in turn, grew visibly more and more fragmented. He finally realized what I was doing to him. He wanted to fight me with everything he had, but even his complete ghost couldn't touch me, let alone the scattered remnants of his spirit. I walked on, scattering the ashes as I went, until Yang Yuntian's ghost had completely dissipated. Not everyone deserves a chance at reincarnation, and at last, the world fell truly silent. This is a full-length novel. Please click long form in the top right corner of the official homepage to parse and read in long form mode. The end. That's the end of the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more thrilling. While I was hospitalized with cancer, my son, the top scorer, stole all my surgery money to gamble online and tip suggestive live streamers. He said the person he hated most in this life was me, because I had ruined his life. When I opened my eyes again, I had gone back 3 years. My son, eyes red, was accusing me of turning him into nothing but a test-taking machine. Then don't study, I said coldly, looking at him. From now on, every decision in your life is none of my concern. This time, I gave my son all the freedom he had so loudly claimed to want, but in the end, he was left weeping with bitter regret. My son took first place again in the citywide exam for second year high school students. The news quickly reached me through my colleagues, who all praised him, saying, I'm so envious, Teacher Jiang, to have such an outstanding son. If I were you, my life would be complete. I smiled politely. Once upon a time, I truly felt the same way. After work, my son's homeroom teacher, Old Sue, stopped me at the school gate. Teacher Jiang, regarding the arts and sciences track split, your son, Yan Yuan, wants to join the humanities stream. You should persuade him to switch to the sciences, for something as crucial as the college entrance exam. Personal interest isn't the most important factor. I fell silent for a moment, lost in thought. In my past life, when my son was choosing his academic track, Old Sue had said the exact same thing to me. As soon as I heard that, I immediately found my son and forced him to switch to the science track. On one hand, it was for his future job prospects. On the other, science was genuinely the subject he excelled at. He performed exceptionally well in the college entrance exam that year, becoming the city's top science student. Combined with the competition bonus points I had applied for on his behalf, he could get into one of the best universities in the country and study one of their top programs. After graduation, he would have had a much brighter future, but in reality, he didn't even finish his sophomore year before he completely ruined his life, skipping classes, dropping out. That was just the tip of the iceberg. On the day I was diagnosed with a terminal illness and hospitalized, he, for once, came to stay with me. That night, however, under the pretext of paying for my surgery, he took my bank card and then proceeded to transfer out every last bit of the medical funds in it. While I lay in my hospital bed awaiting surgery, he spent all that money on gambling and tipping suggestive live streamers. The 800,000 yuan we scraped together to save his life, he blew it all in one night. When I found out, he just smiled and said, Mom, don't you know, the person I've hated most in my life is you. How can someone who ruined their own child's life even deserve to live? Just go and die already. Thinking of this, I shook my head and said, Old Sue, if he likes the humanities, just let him choose it. The child is grown up now. He has his own mind. I won't interfere anymore. With that, I picked up the bag of exam papers and walked away without looking back. That evening, as I was bent over my desk grading my students' papers, my husband Yanhua called, furious. Jiang Wan, what gives you the right to decide our child's future on your own? Yes, you're going to say Yan Yuan is your son, so what? Don't you forget what his last name is. He still carries half of our Yan family's blood in his veins. I cut through his anger. Come home this weekend, we need to settle that matter. After hanging up the phone, I immediately spotted my son, Yan Yuan. He was standing at the entrance in his school uniform, a black backpack on his shoulders, his eyes red. I had no idea how long he'd been there. He looked at me, his face instantly contorted with hatred, as if I were his sworn enemy. Why do you have to interfere with even something like choosing between arts and sciences? Ever since I was little, all you've ever made me do is study. Have you ever cared about what I actually think? You make me feel completely suffocated. I'm your son, not some exam cramming machine." I took off my glasses and rubbed my temples. "What's all the fuss about? It's just about choosing between arts and sciences, isn't it? Teacher Sue already told me, study whatever you want, you don't need my permission." My son looked utterly stunned, as if I were lying to him. "If you don't want to study it, then don't," I continued. "From now on, every decision in your life is none of my business." I meant every word of it. Yan Yuan is my only son. In my past life, I poured my heart and soul into him, wanting to control everything, and indeed, I controlled far too much, because I was the first in my rural family to make it to university. My own path was full of stumbles, so the moment my son was born, I had his entire future mapped out for him. Ever since his early education began, I have handpicked every single one of his teachers at each stage of his learning. While other kids were still playing around, he was already in the city taking classes with renowned tutors, attending training sessions, and competing in contests. On top of the over 100,000 yuan in annual tutoring fees, I also drove him back and forth over 200 kilometers every weekend, year after year. I've always believed that a little hardship early on is fine. Life is meant to be bitter before it turns sweet. After all, how can you possibly gain control over your own life by just lying back and taking it easy, all happy-go-lucky? You're just threatening me, aren't you? My son suddenly yelled, then slammed the door and retreated to his room. I sighed. My son thought I was just saying it in anger. On Saturday morning, when my son learned that his dad, Yan Hua, was coming, his gloomy expression instantly brightened. He happily went back to his bedroom to change, humming a tune while he washed up. At 9 o'clock, Yan Hua appeared at the door, looking weary from his journey. The moment he pushed the door open, before he could even set down his suitcase, his son excitedly threw himself into his arms. Yan Hua reached out as well, and the two held each other in a tight embrace. "You've lost weight, son." After they parted, Yan Hua patted his son's shoulder and began pulling gifts from his suitcase: sneakers, clothes, a tennis racket, and a mobile phone. His son took the phone, his eyes lighting up. "Dad, how did you know I wanted this?" His voice then dropped. "But it'll distract me from studying. Mom won't let me use it." "You should take it back. I bought this for my son. Why can't he use it?" Yan Hua said, deliberately raising his voice. "That's just like her. You can't do this, you can't do that. It's ridicule, Laos. All you ever do is study. Don't turn my son into a bookworm." My son sighed but still couldn't bring himself to put down his phone. "Dad, you're the one who's really good to me." What a touching scene. I couldn't help but start clapping. All these years, I've given my son everything I possibly could, but my son has always believed that his father, whom he only sees a few times a year, is the one who loves him most in this world. Correspondingly, I, his mother, am the villain in his life, the very source of all his misfortune. I went back to my room with a smile, took out the divorce papers I drafted yesterday, and placed them on the coffee table. "Yan Hua, come sign this." The son, who was closest, saw the words on the cover and immediately sprang to his feet. "Mom, what do you mean by this? You're actually divorcing Dad?" "All these years, Dad has worked his fingers to the bone for this family. So busy he barely had time to come home a few times a month. A man as good as my dad, what more could you possibly be unhappy with?" Then he turned to Yan Hua and said, "Dad, you wouldn't agree to this, right?" A look of delight spread across Yan Hua's face. "Good son, go fetch a pen for your dad." The son was stunned. Yan Hua patted him on the shoulder. "It's not just you. I've had enough of your mother's temperament for a long time now." "Then what about me?" the son suddenly asked. "If you split up, what happens to me?" "I'd definitely want you," Yan Hua said, patting his shoulder again. "I'd leave with nothing but the clothes on my back if it meant I could get custody of you." My son's eyes welled up with tears as he looked at his father, deeply moved. "No, I'll tell the judge. I only want to live with you." The two of them embraced again. Yan Hua looked at me, his face beaming with smug satisfaction, as if to say, "I knew our son would choose me." I wasn't the least bit surprised. In my past life, our son hated me so much, not just because I was too controlling, but also because of his father's death. 1 month before the college entrance exams, Yan Hua was driving the wrong way on the highway. He collided with a large truck, and the car instantly caught fire. When he was brought to the hospital, he was still alive, but in a state worse than death. Beyond damage to his body and brain, he suffered severe burns over his entire body. Even if he could have been saved, death would have been a mercy. In the end, I signed the DNR order. I didn't tell him until after the college entrance exams were over, to avoid affecting his performance. My son was Devastated, he felt like a terrible son for not even getting to see his father one last time, and from that moment on, he saw me as nothing but an enemy. He hated me for keeping everything from him, he hated me for not doing more to save his father, and he hated me most of all for putting his studies above everything else in his life. So when I was later diagnosed with a terminal illness, he said I deserved it. Well, he's right, I did deserve it. After all, who's the one who raised such a monster? After watching this touching father-son act for so long, I couldn't stay silent any longer. Hold on, let me say something. First of all, this house has always been mine. When we got married, your family was dirt poor and didn't contribute a single thing. Secondly, I looked at my dear son with a smile, who said I wanted custody of you. The sheer audacity. Yanhua was over the moon, as if he'd won the lottery. When he realized I wasn't fighting him for custody of our son has been famously brilliant since childhood, consistently ranking first in citywide exams. Anyone could see he was top scholar material with a boundless future ahead of him. He was nothing like Yanhua's illegitimate child. In my past life, I never told our son about Yanhua's car accident, and naturally, I never revealed Yanhua's disgraceful behavior. While Yanhua was hospitalized after the accident, I ran into a woman who had come to visit him. That woman, clutching an 8-year-old boy, grabbed onto my pant leg and knelt before me in front of the entire hospital. She claimed this boy was her son with Yanhua. Now that Yanhua is dead, she said they were entitled to half of the family estate. No one knows what I went through during that time. I had always thought our conflicts, which led Yanhua to demand a divorce, stemmed from disagreements over our son's education. To spare our son from a broken home, I had only agreed to a separation in my previous life, refusing to grant a divorce outright. Little did I know, under the guise of a work transfer, he had been keeping a mistress on the side. Their love child was already in elementary school, and this despicable man was still the world's greatest father in our son's eyes. Fine, if my son wants to follow his father, then so be it. I'm going to let my son go to his father's new home with a heart full of joy, to chase the freedom he thinks he wants. But when he finds out his wonderful father has been hiding a new wife and a new son from him all along, and that he is the real outsider in that family, what will his expression be then? Just thinking about it fills me with anticipation. Yanhua spent the entire weekend taking our son out to have fun. It wasn't until Sunday evening, when he remembered his homework, that they hurried back. When my son knocked on my study door, I was still working on my teaching thesis. I opened the door, and he asked angrily, "Why didn't you make us dinner?" I shot back, "Didn't you eat out?" Yanhua loves nothing more than taking him out to restaurants. I used to always say no, thinking it was unhygienic to eat out, and insisted he come home for meals. No matter how late he got back, a hot meal was always waiting on the table. This week, I decided to let him fully enjoy his time with his dad, so naturally, I didn't call once. "I have to come back to do my homework," my son said, looking at me with an expression that clearly expected me to head to the kitchen and cook for them. I didn't move from my seat. "The food is in the fridge, you can heat it up yourself if you're hungry. Didn't you say chores interfere with studying?" he challenged. "You've already interfered for the last couple of days. What's the difference if it's for a little while longer? It's not like this will keep you from getting into college." As soon as I finished speaking, his face darkened. "What? Just because you divorced Dad? I'm not your son anymore. You won't even make a meal for me. You are my son, and you still have to handle your own things," I continued. "Besides, aren't you the one who hates it most when I do everything for you?" My son stared at me in disbelief. "I hate that you only care about my studies, but I don't hate it when you cook for me." In that moment, I suddenly understood the kind of freedom my son wanted. I must unconditionally support whatever he wants to do, and selflessly take care of anything he doesn't want to do. I just smiled, shook my head, and said nothing. My son yelled, "Just wait until you're old. See if I take care of you then." With that, he slammed the door and left. Yanhua and I began the divorce proceedings. My son seemed to want to bring up the topic several times, but in the end, he chose to keep quiet. Since our son still needed to take the college entrance exams at our school, and my apartment was very close by, he would continue living with me until the exams were over. Together, however, he's completely given me the cold shoulder. As soon as he gets home, he shuts his bedroom door, dead set on not saying a single word to me. I've gotten used to it. Besides, not having to do his laundry, cook his meals, go over his test papers, supervise his studies, or drive him to his weekend classes in the city, well, I suddenly have a lot less on my plate. I've started to reflect on things. Maybe I really was too controlling in my past life without realizing it. Did I impose my own will on him? Is that what made him turn out this way, with such a temperament? If I hadn't pushed him so hard to study, would he have avoided going down that destructive path later? But soon, what happened next gave me a new perspective. Yan Hua claimed he only wanted custody of our son, but when it came time to divide the assets, he changed his tune. Although the house we live in now was bought by my parents before the marriage, after we married, we took out a loan to buy a ready-built apartment in the city center for our son, and I've been paying the mortgage with my housing fund every month. That's the apartment Yan Hua is fighting for, he argued self-righteously. We bought this together for our son's future marriage. Now that he's with me, the apartment should naturally go to me. Our son also said, Mom, you already got one apartment, don't make a fuss about this one. Dad said what's his is mine. Yan Hua continued, as a mother, you can't begrudge your own son his things, can you? Even though we're divorced, Yan Yuan is still he's our child. Isn't our job as parents to do what's best for him? I let out a cold laugh. Yan Hua, using other people's things to score points is your usual MO. Since you care so much about our son, you must have saved up $1 million or so after working for decades. Why don't you buy him another apartment with more space in a better location? Jiang Wan, Yan Hua flushed red and argued with me immediately. I contributed money to this apartment too. Yes, you paid 1/10 of the down payment, I said coldly, based on the investment ratio. I get 90%, you get 10%. Any problem with that? Yan Hua exploded instantly. He slammed the table, stood up, and glared at me. Jiang Wan, must you calculate everything down to the last penny? After decades together, how can you be so heartless? His questioning left my mind completely blank. I couldn't believe it. I truly couldn't believe he could say my lines with such a straight face and righteous indignation. After saying that, Yan Hua nudged his son's arm. Xiao Yuan, you should talk some sense into your mom too. This is your future inheritance. Our son hesitated for a moment before saying, Dad, whether it goes to you or Mom, won't it all come to me in the end anyway? Not necessarily, Yan Hua whispered in his ear. If your mom finds someone else and has another child, there might not be anything left for you. I gave them both a long, hard look. What a pair. One has the nerve to lie, and the other has the nerve to believe it. Unbelievable. Because of the property division issue, Yan Hua absolutely refused to sign. He even started to think that my sudden decision to divorce must be because I had someone on the side and couldn't wait to be with them, so he resorted to a truly despicable tactic: delay. He began avoiding any discussion about dividing our assets, ignoring my messages and refusing my calls. On top of that, he knew exactly how to ruin a woman's reputation. Slander to every classmate or relative he met. He would trot out his usual routine, accusing me of being a heartless woman. His story was always the same. With our son about to enter his final year of high school, his mother was having an affair. Not only was she seeking a divorce, but she was also trying to swindle our son out of his inheritance. On the surface, he never directly blamed me, yet every word he spoke carried the same implication, that I was cruel and cold-hearted, nothing like a good mother or a decent wife. My son's poor performance on several exams since switching to the humanities track only made his words seem more credible. In no time, all sorts of rumors and gossip about me were circulating throughout the entire workplace. Even my son's homeroom teacher, old Sue, took the opportunity to drop a few hints, both subtle and not so subtle. The implication was clear: this is a critical time for the child, so any family conflicts should be tolerated and set aside for now. Just before I was completely drowned in a sea of gossip, I took leave and went to a hospital in the provincial capital for a full-body checkup. In my past life, I died from cervical cancer. There were no symptoms in the early stages. By the time it was detected, it was already at an intermediate or advanced stage. Not long after I received the results of my current checkup, the doctor informed me that, as it was caught relatively early, I was currently at stage 2 cervical cancer. The cancer cells had only spread to the pelvic area and had not metastasized to other locations. He recommended chemotherapy followed by radiation, with at least a 60% cure rate. Holding the medical report, I slowly closed my eyes. Compared to the 10% recovery rate from my past life, this was a 50% improvement. It still wasn't a number that could put anyone at ease, but since fate has given me a second chance, I'll seize it, even if the odds are only 50%. Do not say the evening sun is late. The sky is still filled with its glow. This time, I am determined to change the ending of my previous life. After opening my eyes, I steadied my emotions and began to think about how to deal with Yan Hua. If he wants to play dirty, I'm more than ready to give him a run for his money. Over the weekend, I deliberately tailed Yan Hua a few times by car, but surprisingly, I didn't spot any mistress or son by his side. In my past life, it wasn't until he was hospitalized after the car accident that the woman who came to the hospital and knelt before me finally showed up with the child. So, where on earth did he hide that mother and child? Back at school, I saw Yan Yuan's name again on the list for the advanced science class after asking my colleagues. I found out the truth. The school administration leaders, along with old Sue, all believed Yan Yuan had the makings of a top science student to ensure the school achieved good results in the college entrance exams. They had several persuasive talks with Yan Yuan, practically coaxing him into choosing the science track. I was stunned for a moment. The marriage I couldn't leave, the cancer I couldn't escape, the mistress I couldn't find, and now my son's choice. It felt as if some unseen force was still pulling everything back onto its predetermined path. I heard Ms. Jiang is back after all the shameless things she's done. How does she have the nerve to come teach us? Poor Yan Yuan. I heard he's so upset he doesn't even want to study anymore. I was standing at the classroom door, about to push it open forcefully, when a clear female voice rang out. Did any of you actually see it with your own eyes? The other students paused. A boy said angrily, everyone's saying it. Besides, if her conduct was proper, why would she be the subject of gossip? The girl retorted calmly and unhurriedly, if you believe everything you hear, what's next? If someone told you to eat dirt, would you do that too? Aren't you old enough to have any judgment? Ms. Jiang has taught us for so long. Do we really need others to tell us what she's like? The boy sneered. What's she like? The Wicked Witch of the West. Out of all 12 classes in our grade, our class is always the last to be dismissed, and our physics homework is always the heaviest. The girl retorted, but our class also has the best physics grades, and out of all the physics teachers, Ms. Jiang is the best. The boy was about to argue back when I pushed the door open, walked slowly to the front of the classroom, scanned the room, and said, class is starting. After class, the class representative brought the homework to my office. It was the same girl who had just spoken up for me, a top-performing student. After setting down the homework, she whispered, Ms. Jiang, a lot of us believe in you. I never expected to be comforted by my own student. I smiled at her and casually picked up a registration form for the physics competition. Qin Miao, I remember you're very good at physics. I need a student to mentor for this year's competition. Would you like to give it a try? Among all the students in the class, Qin Miao left a deep impression on me. She was diligent and hardworking, consistently ranking in the top 10 in school exams, but in my previous life, Qin Miao never took the college entrance exam. Qin Miao lost her mother in early childhood. Her father was a gambler and, in a drunken stupor, sold his own daughter. So, in the first semester of her final year of high school, she dropped out. Not long after, she was found dead by suicide at home. I won't let the tragedy that befell her happen again, just as I refuse to believe that the script of my life is set in stone. Qin Miao's eyes widened in pleasant surprise. I'd love to, but I'm worried. There's nothing to worry about, I said. As long as you're willing, I'll train you well enough to at least win a provincial second prize or higher. But let me be clear up front, my standards are high and my methods are strict. Professor Jiang, I wouldn't have it any other way. Qin Miao replied immediately, her eyes sparkling. In my past life, I had to force my son to participate in the physics competition. This time around, with Qin Miao as my tutee, I found the experience completely different. My son took everything for granted. No matter how much I taught him, he always seemed reluctant. Qin Miao was the complete opposite. She was even eager for the opportunity. However, I never expected that this time, without even asking my son to compete, he would come to me on his own. Mom, have you forgotten who your real child is? Yan Yuan stood at the office door, his gaze passing over me and fixing directly on Qin Miao, who was solving problems at my desk. I'm a senior this year, and you're a physics teacher. How could you not even ask me if I wanted to participate in something as important as the physics competition? Is it true, like Dad said, that you have another man on the side? He walked step by step toward Qin Miao. What is she to you? Is she your secret daughter? Yan Yuan, I said, my face turning cold as his words grew more outrageous. Do you have any idea what you're saying? I didn't ask you because I knew you'd say no even if I did. My son shot back immediately. How do you know I'd say no if you never even asked? I participated in the physics competition this year too. I was taken aback. So, you want me to tutor you? A flicker of shame crossed my son's face, quickly replaced by a fierce glare. You think you're my only option? Other teachers are begging to teach me. Just wait until the competition. I'll crush that student you picked right into the ground. With that, he turned on his heel and stormed off. Not long after, Old Su came to see me again. Teacher Jiang, why is Yan Yuan so dead set on entering the physics competition? He's stubborn as a mule. We all advised against it. He's missed months of classes. His focus should be catching up. He's your own son. Teacher Jiang, if you don't look out for him, who will understood. I closed my eyes and said nothing more. Qing Miao was a very diligent student. One weekend, she came directly to my house to ask about a problem she couldn't solve. My home address wasn't a secret to my students. I used to invite them over for meals quite often. Teacher, am I disturbing you? Not at all. Curiosity is a student's most precious quality. I explained the approach to the problem and then invited her to stay for lunch. When my son got up, this was the scene he saw. I was cooking in the kitchen, while Qing Miao sat at the living room table, deeply engrossed in her work. His face instantly darkened, and he stormed into the kitchen to ask me, "Mom, why is she in our house?" I was stewing ribs and, without looking up, said, "Because you claimed she was my secret love child yesterday, so I'm treating her as my daughter." My son's face went completely dark. He paced back and forth between the living room and bedroom a few times, then finally, with a grim expression, pulled out a stack of test papers and sat down opposite Qing Miao. Whenever Qing Miao was thinking, he would shift his chair, deliberately making a grating, noisy sound, but Qing Miao had remarkable concentration and didn't even glance his way. By the time I finished cooking and came out, my son had somehow been roused to a competitive spirit, as if he was trying to outdo someone. My mind suddenly drifted away. If the child is not taught, it is the father's fault. In that instant, I actually felt a surge of weakness growing in my heart. After being reborn, I decided for the first time to have a proper talk with my son. Yan Yuan, actually, Teacher Su is right. At this stage, you're better off staying in school for classes. You've missed too many lessons, and the physics competition timeline is very long. It will definitely affect your grades in other subjects. There's no need to rush. There will be other opportunities in the first half of next year. Yet my son still just looked at me with a sneer. If this wasn't a good thing, would you have let Qing Miao participate? I'm going. And what are you going to do about it? Are you going to tie me up? I immediately crushed that brief moment of weakness within me. 3 months later, the provincial physics competition was about to begin. Both my son and Qing Miao went to participate in the short-term training camp. Once the training was over, the official competition would commence. However, on the night before the training camp, an unforeseen accident occurred. Yan Hua was in a car accident on her way back to her hometown to visit family, and her condition is currently unknown. The plot point from my past life had arrived ahead of schedule. The next second, I saw my son, who was about to enter the exam hall, calling me, "Mom, is something wrong at home?" I paused, falling silent for a moment. My son's voice turned icy. "I knew you wouldn't tell me, but I already know, Dad. He was in a car accident last night. We don't know if he'll make it." I'm his son. I'm an adult. I have a right to know. I don't want to miss my chance to see him one last time if something happens. Mom, someone as cold and heartless as you could never understand the bond between me and Dad. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not taking the exam. I held the receiver slightly away from my ear and calmly recited the address. Room 203, Building 5, Inpatient Department, City Hospital, 32 Jiefeng Road. The door isn't locked, just push it open and go in. With that, I hung up the phone. Right now, I'm sitting by Yanhua's hospital bed. He remains unconscious. I waited quietly, biding my time for the show to begin. Half an hour later, the hospital door swung open. A woman, dragging a young boy by the hand, burst into the ward. Spotting me, she dropped to her knees right in front of me. Moments later, the entire ward was filled with deafening wails and cries. This was the scene that greeted my son when he rushed in from his exam, clutching her child with one hand and the hem of my trousers with the other. The woman shrieked in a piercing voice, "Yanhua, if you die, what will become of me and my son? Please, have some pity on us." "Sister, Yunjin was only in the 4th grade when our father passed away." "Yunjin, come and kowtow to your aunt. The lawyer says you also have the right to inherit a share of our father's house." My son stared, dumbfounded, at the woman kneeling at my feet. He stood there frozen for a long moment before stammering, "You, who are you? What are you talking about? This is nonsense. This is clearly my father's hospital bed." I nodded at my son and said, "You're here. Come and meet them. You were bound to meet eventually. After all, you're all going to be one family now." I pointed at the woman who was throwing a tantrum on the floor. "Your new mother." Then I pointed at the boy whose nose was still running. "Your brother." Finally, pointing at Yan Hua on the hospital bed, who had just opened his eyes with a terrified expression. "Your dad's awake too, like father, like son," I remarked. "The whole family's all here now." The son and that woman were locked in a fight. He kept yelling as they fought, "You liar, I don't believe you." It didn't last long. For one thing, he was just a scrawny student with no real strength, and that woman, despite her frail appearance, was fighting dirty. For another, it was because of Yan Hua. He yanked out his four and rushed to stand between the woman and the boy. "Don't hit them, it's all my fault." While blocking, He also covered the terrified, wailing little boy's eyes with a pained heart. "Don't cry, kiddo. Daddy will take you for fried chicken later." Our son's thrown punch froze midair as he stared at his father like he was a stranger. "Dad," he asked, seeking confirmation, "is this true?" Yanhua avoided his gaze, turning to glare at me with fury. "Jiangwan, was this all you're doing?" "I knew it, you venomous woman, you'd stoop to anything for that house." With that, he lunged forward, raising his hand to slap me across the face, but due to his leg fracture from the car accident, he lost his balance completely before he could finish the motion, slipping and falling to the floor as if offering me an early New Year's bow. "My leg." He clutched his pinned left leg and yelled, "I'm going to sue you." That was deliberate. The woman and her children gathered around Yen Hua, wailing and making a scene. "What's all this racket?" The doctor on round stood at the doorway and snapped, "Have some decency, other patients need their rest." "Doctor," the woman called out urgently, "my husband's broken leg just got crushed. Please, take a look at him." The doctor came in, examined him for a moment, and said, "He's fine, nothing's going to happen, calm down." He stood up, his gaze slowly settling on my face. He paused. "It's you. Have you thought about the treatment plan we discussed last time? You can't afford to delay with something this serious." Having said that, the doctor frowned at the people beside me and scolded, "You're making a huge fuss over a minor fracture, yet you show no concern for something as serious as cancer." Yanhua's face lit up with joy. "Cancer? Did I hear that right? She has cancer? Doctor, you're not joking, are you?" The doctor looked at us strangely, as if he'd never seen such a bizarre family, but he nodded in confirmation nonetheless. Yanhua immediately burst into loud, raucous laughter. "The heavens have finally opened their eyes. I'll go burn incense tomorrow. Thank you, Buddha, for giving that woman cancer. This is a godsend." That woman was also overjoyed. The two of them embraced and began fantasizing about dividing up the future inheritance. "But honey, that's your wife's property. Can you even inherit it when she dies? Once she's gone, it'll all go to my son, Xiaoyuan." "What about my son, Yunjin?" "Oh, what's Xiaoyuan's is Yunjin's, they're brothers." After all, Yanhua placated the woman with that line, then immediately turned to make introductions. "Xiaoyuan, come meet everyone. From now on, you'll have a new mother and a younger brother." Yanhua's words were left hanging in the air. His son's fist was clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white, a guttural growl rumbling in his throat. The next instant, that fist smashed squarely into Yanhua's left cheek. "Enough," the son roared, his eyes blazing. "How long are you going to keep treating me like a fool? A man like you, are you even fit to be my father? And I actually gave up my own exam for you." Father and son grappled, a tangled mess of limbs like two beasts locked in a fight to the death. He knew the towering mountain of paternal devotion that Yen Yuan had worshipped in his heart crumbled to dust that day. 16. I walked out of that chaotic room. Whatever happens next is no longer my concern. Yanhua wasn't wrong. I was indeed behind his car accident. Rather than waiting for the real, fatal crash he was destined for in our senior year, I decided to force his hand early and expose his true colors. Besides, my health couldn't bear watching those clowns perform their little act in front of me day in and day out. The trip back to our hometown was my suggestion to Yan Hua. To get him to agree, I deliberately eased up on the terms of our asset division, on the condition that he come with me to visit our relatives back home. I was the one driving on the way back. I had bribed a familiar cattle herder to pretend he lost control of his herd, letting them stampede onto the country road and it blocked the road ahead of us. The payment was a spot for his child to attend the city's central school. For his child's sake, he would of course help me with all his heart. Then, in the critical moment, I turned the wheel, directing the impact with the mountainside toward Yan Hua's side. I wouldn't let Yan Hua die in the crash, just render him unconscious for a while. Finally, I got hold of his phone and sent a mass text to all his contacts. "I've been in a serious car accident. Darling, hurry and bring our son to the hospital. Find Jiangwan to claim your share of the house and inheritance." The message didn't need to be long. After all, the right people would rush over in a panic, and those who shouldn't see it, the irrelevant ones, could still infer what had happened from the text. The mud Yan Hua slings at me will eventually land right back on him, and of course, that wasn't the end of it. I filed for a contested divorce with the court, citing Yan Hua's crime of bigamy. Cohabiting and having a child with someone else while still married to me is a criminal offense. I had desperately lacked evidence before, but back in the hospital room, they didn't notice my phone was recording from a high corner with both witness testimony and physical evidence. No matter how much Yan Hua struggles, his fate is sealed. This divorce is happening, whether he likes it or not. 17. When the court's judgment arrived, my sick leave application to the school was also approved. Before leaving the school, I made a special trip back to hand over the details about the children in my class to the new teacher. I had assumed all the kids in my class disliked me, given how strict I was with them and how rarely I smiled. But during my final lesson, as I was handing things over, the children in the class broke down in tears. Teacher Jiang, we don't want you to go. I'll be back. Teacher Jiang, the usually most outgoing child wailed, don't lie to us, we all know you have cancer, and we might never see you again. Teacher Jiang, the boy who yelled at me last time, looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. I'm sorry, Qing Miao was right, I'm just a fool who only knew how to blame you, for getting all the care and effort you put into us. After every exam, you would talk to each of us one-on-one, go over our papers, and encourage us not to give up. The other children, their eyes red, also began to speak up. Teacher Jiang might seem strict, but she cares about us more than anyone. When I came to class sick, Teacher Jiang sent me home to rest and used her own free time to help me catch up. My grades were terrible, but Teacher Jiang never scolded me. Instead, she gave me study guides she picked out herself. Qing Miao cried the loudest. My dad wouldn't let me study anymore, he wanted to sell me off for a bride price. It was Teacher Jiang who gave him all her own money. She told him he was being short-sighted, and that I was destined for great things. It was the first time in my life someone believed in me like that. Sobs. I studied and tested myself relentlessly, also I wouldn't let you down. Amidst the chorus of sobs, I steadied myself and rapped on the desk. Alright, enough with the tears, it's not that serious. The doctor said I still have a 60% chance of recovery. You're carrying on as if I'm already gone. The classroom gradually fell silent. The afternoon sunlight crept slowly across every inch of the room, falling upon each young face. I began to speak slowly, deciding that for this final lesson, I would say things I normally wouldn't. Children, there are two kinds of suffering, one makes you stronger, the other is worthless, serving only to torment you. This is a saying Teacher Jiang has always been fond of. In the past, knowledge changed my fate. After becoming a teacher, I hoped it could change yours too. Change everyone's fate. At the very least, it can give you the ability to have more choices during life's most painful moments. After all, exams, especially major ones, are your only chance to stand on the same starting line as everyone else in the competition. You've probably heard this so many times it's coming out of your ears. When Teacher Jiang was young, his family was dirt poor. If he hadn't studied desperately to get into university, he probably wouldn't have the money for medical treatment now and would just be waiting to die. I'm not saying this to glorify the pain you're going through now. Teacher Jiang hates suffering too, but he understands that pain cannot be avoided or dissolved. If you resent the life and the rules that cause you pain now, then Teacher Jiang hopes that in the future, because of this pain, you will have the ability and the means to change them, to create a fairer future for the next generation, and the one after that, because the present we live in was built through the struggles of generations before us. Class dismissed. 18. I went through a long and arduous course of treatment. My battle with cancer ended victoriously right as the college entrance exams concluded. To everyone's surprise, Qing Miao emerged as this year's citywide top science student. With the bonus points from her provincial first prize in the physics competition, she could pick any university and major she wanted. Time flows on, and the story of the carp leaping over the dragon gate repeats itself, just with a different protagonist this time. When the results came out, she, usually so composed, called me in an ecstatic frenzy to share the good news. Should I choose Tsinghua or Peking University? She asked, sounding dazed with joy. There's a professor at Tsinghua who was my senior during undergrad. His research is in a nationally prioritized field that's in desperate need of top-tier talent. Would you like me to put in a good word for you with him? Yes, please, thank you. Professor Jiang, you're the best. I hung up the phone and saw the message Old Su had sent me. He'd been texting me a lot lately ever since Yan Hua and I divorced and our son, Yan Yuan, was granted custody to her. The boy became a completely different person. He was either constantly late or leaving early, or he'd be on his phone during class. His grades plummeted. Old Su would often contact Yan Hua, urging her to get a handle on their son. She'd always agree readily enough, but in reality, she paid it no mind. In an effort to win our son back to her side, she indulged his every whim. But even so, Yan Yuan would often treat her with scorn and sarcasm. Fortunately, Yan Yuan had a decent foundation, so he still managed to get into a university in the end. What's the real shame in all this? As Old Su said to me angrily, it's not that he couldn't do it, it's that he could have, but he just wouldn't. Everyone has their own way of living and their own measure of happiness. I replied to him, perhaps this is the very life Yan Yuan himself wishes to pursue. Don't be ridiculous. We both know perfectly well that no one doesn't want the very best life has to offer, Old Su said. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. a brutal struggle all just to secure a ticket to the top, isn't it? Children are always naive, as their guides, we cannot afford to be. People are different. That was all I could say in response. Teacher Jiang, oh Teacher Jiang, I never thought you'd truly stop caring for him, others you might give up on. But he's your own flesh and blood, for you women, isn't a child success the greatest fulfillment of your life? Mark my words, you'll regret this someday. Finally, he sighed and hung up the phone. The next time I saw Yan Yuan was during his senior year of university. He wanted to study abroad to get a better degree and asked me for 200,000 yuan. With the job market the way it is now, you can't find work with just a bachelor's degree. Yan Yuan complained anxiously over the phone, saying he'd been sending out resumes for the autumn recruitment season over and over, but companies would toss his application as soon as they saw which university he attended. I didn't give him the money, but I did refer him to Qin Miao's company. Qin Miao had started his own business back in his sophomore year, and it had already grown to the scale of a proper startup. If he buckled down and worked hard, this industry was poised to be the next big thing. But in the end, Yan Yuan never showed up. I only found out later that Yan Yuan's plan to study abroad was just an excuse. Just like in his past life, he had fallen back into his gambling addiction. The whole studying abroad thing was just his excuse to scam people out of money. It started with just his monthly allowance, but the bets grew bigger and the losses piled higher. It's a common trap for someone with no self-control. The rush of making millions in an instant rewires their brain. After that, a regular salary just doesn't cut it anymore. So, he set his sights on Yanhua. Yanhua had worked for years and kept a tight grip on her savings. Of course she refused to give him anything. The next time I saw the father and son, they were on the front page of the news. One was dead, stuffed inside a refrigerator. The other, in prison garb, was sobbing uncontrollably to the cameras. My father cheated when I was a kid. It left me with deep psychological scars. He's the reason I failed the college entrance exam. He ruined my entire life. If he hadn't done me such harm back then, I wouldn't have resorted to this. Death is a release for him. Watching the live broadcast on TV, I let out a long, heavy sigh. Outside, Qin Miao called out to me loudly, Auntie Jiang, the New Year's Eve dinner is ready. Come down and eat. I answered and quickly turned off the television. The living room was filled with guests, my students from over the years, now successful and spread far and wide. Every new year, they gather their friends and come to visit me at home, reuniting with each other in the process. In this life, I never had children of my own, but my students have become the ones who carry forward my knowledge and ideas. Isn't this, in its own way, a perfect ending? The end. Story 2. The new transfer student caught my fiancé's attention. The young master who transferred with her wasn't happy about it. You've lured away my little follower. What am I supposed to do? Who's going to do my homework? My fiancé raised an eyebrow and smiled, then pointed at me. Then I'll give you my little follower. She's so obsequious, I can't stand it. She's annoying. I remained silent, just watching them quietly. After they left, I threw the homework they'd stayed up all night to finish into the trash can. I couldn't help laughing. I, a grudging but cowardly person with a dark side, love secretly causing trouble in private. In my senior year of high school, 2 new transfer students came to our class. One was Ji Qingqing. She was very smart and ranked first in the whole grade in the first monthly exam. My fiancé, Li Xiyang, whistled beside me and asked, Fang Wen, someone has snatched your first place in the grade. How do you feel now? I don't feel anything. I'll just work harder next time. I forced a smile and met Li Xiyang's eyes, but he looked away guiltily. When he looked at Ji Qingqing again, there was a hint of playfulness in his eyes. Later, they met again in the cafeteria. Ji Qingqing accidentally spilled the hot soup in her hand onto Li Xiyang's branded shirt. Li Xiyang asked her to pay for it. Ji Qingqing said she was a poor student and asked if she could write an IOU, but Li Xiyang demanded that she run errands for him in the future to pay off the debt. By the time I knew about this, Li Xiyang had already thrown both his and Ji Qingqing's homework on my desk. You can do her homework along with mine. I have something to do with her. Beside him, Ji Qingqing looked at me with an innocent face. I'm sorry, Fang Wen. He insisted that I run errands to buy him a cake. Maybe I should do my own homework. She reached out to take back her homework, but Li Xiyang stopped her. Writing a few words won't kill her. Just give it to her. Li Xiyang grabbed Ji Qingqing's sleeve and was about to leave, but at the classroom door, they were blocked by another transfer student, Jiang Wenxuan, who transferred with Ji Qingqing, caused quite a stir in the school. On the first day of school, he rode a motorcycle with a very flamboyant license plate. Ji Qingqing was sitting on the back seat. The two of them looked like a domineering CEO and an innocent girl. Jiang Wenxuan was really eye-catching. It was only After the principal talked to him in person that he became a bit more low-key in school, there were all kinds of rumors about his background in the school. Some said his family was involved in politics, and his parents were high-ranking officials, so the principal had to please him. Others said his family was very rich and had donated a large sum of money to the school. After all kinds of speculations, everyone reached a consensus. The new Jiang Wenquan, like Li Xiyang, had a powerful family background and was someone not to be messed with in this school, so, unlike usual when he would have pushed someone aside, Li Xiyang stopped this time. What do you want? Jiang Wenquan's eyes fell on Li Xiyang's hand holding Ji Qingqing's sleeve. You've lured away my little follower. What am I supposed to do? Who's going to do my homework? So it's about this. Li Xiyang raised an eyebrow and smiled, then pointed at me not far away. Then I'll give you my little follower. She's so obsequious. I can't stand it. She's annoying. Jiang Wenquan looked in the direction he pointed. I heard she's your fiancé. Are you willing to give her up? Li Xiyang sneered disdainfully and said in front of everyone, what fiancé? Her family has already fallen. Her father has even been imprisoned. If you like her, just order her around. So I received 3 blank sets of homework before leaving. Jiang Wenquan asked knowingly, is it not too difficult for you? I remained silent, seeing that I didn't answer. He felt bored and left with a mute comment. I looked at the 3 sets of homework piled on my desk. Li Xiyang's was still blank. He was used to throwing his homework to me to finish. As for Ji Qingqing and Jiang Wenquan's homework, they had already done half of it, but it was obvious that it was in Ji Qingqing's handwriting. It seemed that before school ended yesterday, I saw Ji Qingqing writing furiously, but the homework in senior year of high school was really too much. It was hard for her to finish 2 people's worth of homework in one night. Tonight, the teacher would specifically check the completion of the homework, so I stood up and directly threw the 3 sets of homework into the trash can. As if it wasn't enough, I picked up the ink in the drawer, unscrewed the cap, and poured the whole bottle into the trash can. The ink stains spread on the notebooks, and finally, I showed a satisfied smile. Li Xiyang wasn't wrong. I was indeed a sycophant, but it was just because after my family fell, there were so many people who came to bully me to show their superiority. I could only pretend to fawn on Li Xiyang. Those classmates wouldn't bully me for his sake, but if the one bullying me became him, then I didn't need to fawn anymore. Doing 1 set of homework could be regarded as review and consolidation. Doing 3 sets of homework made me a complete fool. I didn't want to be a fool, and I was a grudging but cowardly person with a dark side. Before the evening self-study started, the teacher called me to the office to talk about the physics competition. The teacher talked to me for a long time. It was not until most of the first class of the evening self-study had passed that he let me go. From a distance, I could see the 3 people standing outside the classroom. As a punishment, Ji Qingqing's eyes were red from crying, and the other 2 had very ugly expressions. At their feet were the homework that had been taken out of the trash can and soaked with ink. Where have you been, Feng Wen? As soon as he saw me, Li Xiyang immediately questioned me. I also gave the reason that the competition teacher had called me. Then why did you hand in your homework? While ours was in the trash can, I pretended to be surprised and put on an equally innocent look. I don't know, a classmate borrowed my homework to take a look. I gave it to her. Maybe she was kind-hearted and handed it in for me after finishing. As for yours, I really don't know what happened. How about checking the surveillance? Li Xiyang didn't say anything because the classroom surveillance had broken down a few days ago and hadn't been repaired yet. Ji Qingqing sobbed softly, and her tears seemed to burst out. The teacher in the classroom asked me why I wasn't coming in. As I turned to leave, my foot accidentally stepped on someone's exercise book, leaving a clear footprint. Jiang Wenquan, who had been silent all this time, suddenly laughed. You're quite interesting, aren't you? The teacher didn't punish them to stand for too long, but they were required to rewrite the soiled homework. Li Xiyang seemed dissatisfied with this and left with his bag as soon as school was over that day, not waiting for me at all. In the past, we always went home together, but this time he left first. He walked fast with his long legs. I couldn't catch up with him. I watched him get into the car parked at the door and order the driver to drive. The driver looked at me worriedly, under Li Xiyang's urging. He still reluctantly started the car. I could only walk towards the nearby bus stop. I hadn't walked a few steps when I heard the roar of a motorcycle. Jiang Wenquan's motorcycle stopped behind me. He wore a helmet, revealing a pair of sharp eyes. Since the principal talked to him, he could only park his motorcycle near the school gate. You were the one who threw away our homework, right? That bottle of ink is an imported product. It's not cheap. Did Li Xiyang buy it for you? I didn't answer. Jiang Wenquan clicked his tongue in annoyance, then twisted the throttle, and the Motorcycle roared Ji Qingqing, who had just walked out of the school gate, saw this scene and let out a scream. Jiang Wenquan. No, unfortunately, Jiang Wenquan seemed to ignore her obstruction. He lifted the kickstand, tightened the throttle, and the front of the motorcycle rushed straight towards me, but when it was only 2 steps away from me, the motorcycle suddenly fell apart, and the wheel came off the body. Jiang Wenquan couldn't control it and fell forward, landing heavily in front of me. The huge impact made me tremble with fear. Looking at the person lying on the ground, I said softly, "It's not even New Year yet, you don't need to bow so deeply. Do you need me to call an ambulance for you?" Jiang Wenquan was immediately sent to the hospital. He had contusions on his body, and his foot was broken. He had to ask for a half-month leave from school. In school, the teacher used this incident as a negative example to teach us. I was busy doing my homework and didn't even look up. Li Xiang, who was sitting next to me, gradually woke up from his sleep. His eyes suddenly fell on my hand. "What's with the band-aid on your hand?" "I bought a new set of test papers and accidentally cut my hand." "Tisk, so delicate," he muttered and turned his head to go back to sleep, not noticing the lie that slipped out of my mouth at all. In fact, I just secretly removed a few screws from Jiang Wenquan's motorcycle yesterday. Because my dad was a car enthusiast, there used to be various models of car and motorcycle models at home. I learned something from being around them. I knew which screws on the motorcycle were important but wouldn't cause a major disaster. During the days when Jiang Wenquan was resting, Li Xiang was always by Ji Qingqing's side. She was ordered by Li Xiang to do his homework, buy water for him, and even deliver it to the basketball court, which inevitably led to everyone making fun of them. At noon during the lunch break, Ji Qingqing ran back crying. She was lying on the table, looking extremely aggrieved, but soon, she composed herself again and came up to me. "I'm sorry, Fang Wen, I just found out today that you and Li Xiang have such a relationship. Please don't be angry. Li Xiang and I have nothing. I'm just doing this to pay off the debt." I asked around and found out that today Ji Qingqing went to the basketball court to deliver a cake as Li Xiang asked. When the people around were making fun of them as usual, someone mentioned my name. "Brother Yang, what about Fang Wen? Your fiancé likes you so much, won't she be jealous?" Ji Qingqing immediately distanced herself from Li Xiang, but the teasing continued, and it made her cry. "I'm sorry, Fang Wen, I really didn't know you two." "Didn't know what?" Li Xiang walked into the classroom at this moment. Swinging his coat, he sat in his seat and taunted me. "I've never admitted that she's my fiancé. Our so-called engagement was more like a joke because our two families were old friends. We were childhood sweethearts." Li Xiang's grandfather liked me very much. Every time I visited the Li family, he would always talk about arranging a baby marriage later. My family fell, but Li Xiang's parents still took good care of us. At last year's parents' meeting, no one from his family attended. Li Xiang's grandfather came. As soon as he saw me, he took my hand and called me granddaughter-in-law. In addition, every night after the evening self-study, Li Xiang would give me a ride home. So in the eyes of others, our relationship was close, and gradually, there was a rumor that I was his fiancé. "Fang Wen, have I ever said you're my fiancé?" Li Xiang stared at me intently and snatched the pen from my hand. The tip of the pen scratched the test paper, leaving a long mark. Looking at the half-written test paper being scratched, I was immediately annoyed. "No, we have no relationship, so, classmate, you don't need to misunderstand. Your affairs have nothing to do with me." Both Ji Qingqing and Li Xiang fell silent. "Humph." Finally, Li Xiang's cold laugh broke the silence. He threw the pen in front of me, but because he used too much force, the pen rolled to the ground. The pen cap came off, and it seemed to be broken in two. Li Xiang beside me stood up and left directly. Before leaving, he threw his homework in front of me. "Just remember that, do my homework for me." The teacher asked them to make up the previous homework, and Li Xiang immediately threw it to me. Then he left with Ji Qingqing, saying that he would ask her to run errands to buy things until the lunch break was almost over and the class representative came to collect the homework. I directly handed in Li Xiang's unfinished homework. As soon as the class representative left, a faint voice came from behind me. I saw everything. I looked in the direction of the voice and saw that Jiang Wenquan was actually back. He was standing outside the window, leaning against it with one hand, looking at me and smiling with raised eyebrows. It seems that Li Xiang's little follower has had a fight with him. What do you think Li Xiang will do if I tell him about this? "Oh, then you can tell him." Seeing that I wasn't falling for it, Jiang Wenquan muttered that it was boring. In the afternoon, when the teacher graded the homework, he directly called Li Xiang to the office. When he came back, his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. "Fang Wen, why didn't you do my homework for me? I'm very busy recently, I can't do your homework for you anymore. Do you believe I'll go to Ji Qingqing? Sure, go to her then. If someone could help me get rid of this mess, why not? But Ji Qingqing, who was sitting not far in front of me, looked back at us. She seemed to have something to say but couldn't. Li Xiang was about to say something when a classmate walked into the classroom and told me in a low voice that the competition teacher wanted to see me. I immediately got up and went to the office. The teacher first gave me a set of questions and then told me that there was another person in the class participating in the competition with me. That person is exactly your classmate, you two can take care of each other. What? I racked my brains but couldn't figure out who it was. Could it be Ji Qingqing? Soon, that person came to the office. I was stunned. It was actually Jiang Wenquan. Seeing my surprised expression, he glared at me fiercely. What are you looking at? Can't I participate in the competition? The teacher explained to me that Jiang Wenquan had also participated in the competition in his previous school. I thought carefully. It seemed that in other classes, he was always dozing off, but only in physics class did he raise his head and listen carefully. So this was the so-called single-subject genius. The teacher gave us a set of competition test papers and asked us to analyze them carefully. He arranged us in another classroom. There were only the two of us in the classroom. I lowered my head and worked on the test paper. Jiang Wenquan held a pen in his hand and propped his head up with the other hand, looking at me. Fang Wen, you look quite good looking from this angle. I didn't respond, pretending to turn the test paper. I knocked over the cup beside me. The cup rolled down the table and hit Jiang Wenquan's foot directly. This was the same foot he had injured half a month ago, so a shrill scream resounded through the whole classroom. Jiang Wenquan shrank back and glared at me with gritted teeth. No wonder Li Xiang doesn't like you. You really can't stand losing even the slightest bit. Whether Li Xiang likes me or not is no longer important to me. I just want to finish my own things. The competition test paper was very difficult. It took me an entire evening self-study session just to do these few questions. By the time we finished, it was almost time to leave school. Jiang Wenquan glanced at the time and walked straight towards the school gate. I remembered that I hadn't tidied up the things on my desk, so I turned around and went back to the classroom. As soon as I stepped into the door, the bell rang for the end of class, and everyone started packing up to go home. Only Li Xiang was still sitting motionless in his seat. When he saw me coming back, he raised his eyelids and sized me up. Where have you been? Why did you leave me behind just now? Speak. Seeing that I remained silent, Li Xiang couldn't help but shout, Fang Wen, what do you want to do now? You used to agree to do my homework. Are you throwing a tantrum at me now? I told you that I'm very busy recently. Can you ask someone else to do your homework? I looked up and stared straight into Li Xiang's eyes, but he looked away guiltily. Don't think I didn't see you going to the office with Jiang Wenquan and not coming back. What did you two do? It has nothing to do with you. Just as I finished speaking, my phone in my pocket suddenly rang. Looking at the caller ID, I had a bad feeling. It was a call from the neighbor next door. As soon as the call connected, a worried voice came from the other end. Wen, come quickly, hurry to the second municipal hospital. Your mother suddenly fainted. I didn't care about anything else and rushed out of the classroom directly. The oncoming wind blew on my face, stinging like a dull knife, but it couldn't compare to the anxiety in my heart. My mother's health has always been poor. Especially after my father was imprisoned. She needs to take medicine regularly. When I rushed to the school gate, I suddenly realized that it was the peak time for school dismissal, and it was very difficult to get a taxi. I scanned around and suddenly saw the car parked by the roadside. It was the car from Li Xiang's family. His driver was waving at me. Just then, Li Xiang walked out of the school gate. I immediately rushed forward anxiously. Can you take me to the hospital? I need to go to the hospital right now. My mother, Li Xiang's expression changed slightly. He was about to step forward but suddenly stopped. Sure, then will you still go against me next time? I was stunned for a moment and looked at him in surprise. As long as you promise to listen to me from now on and do whatever I ask you to do, then I'll take you. Before he could finish speaking, someone suddenly grabbed the strap of my school bag and pulled me back. You have time to talk nonsense with him. Hurry up and go. I was pulled back 2 steps, looking back. It was actually Jiang Wenquan. He dragged me to his motorcycle and threw me a helmet directly. Get on, I'll take you. I looked at this huge motorcycle and hesitated. What, are you scared? No, it's not that. He should have fixed the bike, right? What if it falls apart halfway? Then what are you afraid of? Don't you want to go to the hospital? He swung his long leg and straddled the bike, thinking of my mother in the hospital. I didn't care about anything else and immediately climbed onto the back seat. The key was, where should I hold on? I was so nervous that I didn't know where to put my hands. The roar of the throttle had already sounded, and I tried to recall the videos I had seen before. Right, hold on to the fuel tank. Just as I was about to reach out to hold the fuel tank, Jiang Wenchuan suddenly grabbed my hand and put it on his waist. With your little strength, you'll be thrown out when turning a corner if you hold the fuel tank. Sit tight. The motorcycle started and sped up quickly. I looked back at Li Xiang. He was still standing there, his hand by his side clenched into a fist. His figure became smaller and gradually disappeared. The journey to the second municipal hospital usually took 20 minutes, but now it only took 10 minutes. As soon as the motorcycle stopped at the hospital entrance, I took off the helmet and stuffed it into Jiang Wenchuan's arms, then rushed towards the ward immediately. Fortunately, my mother had already woken up. She was a little surprised to see me rush in. Wenwen, it's not long since school ended, right? A classmate was kind enough to send me here. How are you? My mother took my hand and shook her head. She had a heart disease, and tonight she saw a fight on the street and was suddenly frightened. Fortunately, the neighbor passed by and sent her to the hospital in time. Wenwen, am I a burden to you? She reached out to tidy the stray hairs on my forehead, her eyes full of guilt. Your father and I couldn't give you a good life and have implicated you, uncle. Li and the others have always wanted you to go abroad to study with Li Xiang. I know you've stayed because of me. It's okay, Mom, it's not your fault. I don't like dry bread anyway. My mother laughed and urged me to take a taxi home. She had to stay in the hospital for one night. I was worried and wanted to stay with her, but she refused. The bed here is small and hard, and the quilt isn't warm. Go back. I could only nod helplessly. Just as I walked out of the hospital and hadn't hailed a taxi yet, I saw a figure under the tree. Jiang Wenchuan's motorcycle was parked by the roadside in the dim night. This black motorcycle almost blended in with the shadows. He raised his eyes to meet my gaze, and slowly walked out from under the tree. His figure was gradually lengthened by the streetlight. I looked at him in surprise. Why haven't you gone back yet? Come on, I'll take you back. He didn't answer my question but directly threw me the helmet. I looked at the motorcycle in front of me and hesitated. It was really an emergency just now, and besides, I had never ridden a motorcycle before. Who knew it would be so scary to ride, especially when turning corners several times. It felt like my body was flying in front, and my soul was chasing behind. I really didn't want to ride this thing again. It's okay, there's a bus stop not far from here. I can take the bus back myself. Are you sure there are still buses this late? There should be, right? I walked to the bus stop. The sign showed that the last bus was at 10 o'clock in the evening, and it was already 10:10 now. This stop was the third one on this route, and I wasn't sure if the bus had left. I'll take you back. What if there are bad guys out there at this late hour? I'm really fine. You were brave enough to remove my screws back then. What happened? Are you scared now? Cold sweat broke out on my back, and I looked away guiltily. Jiang Wenchuan's eyes were intense. After a long stand-off, he suddenly burst out laughing. All right, I'm not here to hold you accountable. Come on, I'll take you. I still hesitated when looking at the motorcycle in front of me. Just as I was about to step on it, suddenly, lights flickered not far away. Hey, the bus is coming. A bus slowly drove towards us. It didn't come earlier or later, but just at this time, he muttered softly and hooked his finger around the strap of my school bag, not letting go. Look, that's the last bus. There's only a male driver on the bus. Aren't you scared to sit there? Aren't you also a male? Jiang Wenchuan took a deep breath, and the hand pinching the strap of my school bag tightened. Fangwen, your mouth can really piss people off. He let go of my hand, and I happily got on the last bus. There wasn't only the driver in the bus, there were also 3 passengers, 2 men and 1 woman. They all looked exhausted, probably hard-working people who had just finished working overtime. I found a seat in the corner and let out a long sigh. But at the next stop, the man and the woman got off the bus. There were only the driver, a male passenger, and me left in the bus. I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination, but that male passenger kept stealing glances at me. I couldn't be blamed for being suspicious. With the recent social news, I had to be on guard. I put my school bag in front of me and tried to huddle myself into the corner. Hey, why is there a motorcycle following us at the back? The driver glanced at the rear view mirror, looking a bit puzzled. My heart skipped a beat. I turned around and looked back. I saw that Jiang Wenchuan had been riding his motorcycle behind me diagonally since it was the last bus. The driver couldn't help speeding up, hoping to get home earlier. The bus kept reminding that it was about to exceed the speed limit, but the speed of the bus was never faster than the motorcycle. Yet, Jiang Wenchuan just kept following behind and didn't intend to overtake. Little girl, do you know that young man? The driver uncle asked me. I withdrew my gaze and nodded. Yes, he's my classmate, I see. The driver didn't say anything more and just continued driving. The passenger sitting in front heard what I said and silently withdrew his gaze. Soon, the bus stopped at the bus stop downstairs of my house. The entrance of the community was not far away. I got off the bus and rummaged through my school bag for the access card. Ready to swipe it to enter, I walked a few steps and couldn't help but look back. Jiang Wenxuan's motorcycle was parked by the roadside. He leaned against the fuel tank with his long legs stepping on the ground and waved at me. I couldn't see his expression clearly because of the helmet in the night, but my heart was pounding. Even the cold night wind couldn't calm the heat in my heart at the moment. Thinking of his escort all the way, I couldn't help but laugh and waved back at him. Thank you. Only then did Jiang Wenxuan get up, twist the throttle, and turn to leave. I stared at his back, lost in thought. However, probably because of the cold evening wind from the motorcycle ride on the way here, I got a fever. It might also be due to the high pressure recently. In the morning, I really couldn't get up. I thought about it in my mind. Should I go to school with my sick body, or should I sleep for a while and go to school full of energy after getting better? After careful consideration, I thought it was more cost-effective to rest for a while, so I immediately asked the head teacher for leave and slept soundly at home. I slept until the afternoon. My mother came back from the hospital, hearing that I was sick. She also brought back some fever-reducing medicine. The food on the table had been reheated by her again and again. Finally, I got up and sat at the table to eat. Holding my phone, I saw a bunch of messages in the list. The top message was from Li Xiang, sent 10 minutes ago. Why aren't you at school? Where are you? I opened his chat page. Since this morning, Li Xiang's messages had been sent non-stop. Why aren't you at school? Jiang Wenxuan sent you to the hospital last night. Why is he being so kind? The teacher said you're sick. How are you now? Reply to my message. Are you still angry about what happened yesterday? I said at that time, as long as you're obedient, I can take you to the hospital. Why aren't you at school? Where are you? Seeing that Li Xiang was about to send another message, I furrowed my brows and directly blocked him. Just as I put down my phone, I saw my mother looking at me cautiously. When did you quarrel with Li Xiang? Why do you ask? Nothing. It's just that I haven't seen him for a long time. I lowered my head to eat, remaining silent. Li Xiang and I were childhood sweethearts. He used to come to my house as a guest often. I remember that when my father was framed and imprisoned, Li Xiang vowed to protect me. At that time, many people made fun of me because of my father's incident and came to talk nonsense in front of me. If your father didn't do anything wrong, would he be in prison? Serves him right. All the money in the family is gone now. Right, I was just in junior high school at that time. A group of people surrounded me and laughed until Li Xiang ran in from the next classroom and punched the person who was talking to the ground. I'm telling you, if any of you dare to talk nonsense in front of Fangwen again, don't blame me for hitting you. I won't allow any of you to bully her. Unfortunately, the person who protected me without hesitation at that time would later say such things. Her family has already fallen. Her father has even been imprisoned. If you like her, just order her around. Even after so many days, when I think of the tone in which Li Xiang said those words, my heart still aches. Life in senior year of high school is very urgent. I don't dare to ask for too many days off. I went back to school for the evening self-study. As soon as I walked into the classroom, I saw Ji Qingqing sitting in my seat, talking to Li Xiang. When she saw me coming back, she instinctively stood up but was grabbed by the wrist by Li Xiang. Li Xiang raised his chin at me. Hey, give her your seat. You don't have any objections, do you? Sure. Then can I sit in your seat to do my homework first? I asked Ji Qingqing in a low voice. She nodded. I was about to sit in her seat with the test paper when Li Xiang suddenly called out to me. Why didn't you reply to my messages? I don't want to reply to your messages anymore. I turned around to look at Li Xiang. The person who had been sitting leisurely, propping his head up with his hand just now, suddenly sat up straight, his face changing dramatically. Fangwen, what do you mean? It means, I don't want to reply to your messages anymore. We don't need to go home together after school in the future, and I won't do your homework for you anymore. That's it. Because I suddenly realized that my childhood sweetheart had long since turned bad. You, Li Xiang was about to say something when the window beside him was tapped gently, making a sound. He angrily turned his head to look and saw Jiang Wenxuan standing outside the window. Ji Qingqing was so scared that she immediately stood up and took a few steps back, keeping a distance from Li Xiang. Jiang Wenxuan opened the window but didn't even give a glance to the two of them. Instead, he directly greeted me. Are you feeling better from your illness? I nodded. Just as I was about to speak, he suddenly threw something into my hand. It was a box of cold granules. I passed by a pharmacy with a discount on the way and bought it casually. It's for you. Jiang Wenchuan swaggered into the classroom. Ji Qingqing immediately got up and walked towards him. The two stood at the door and talked about something. Before Ji Qingqing could say much, Jiang Wenchuan impatiently nodded and went straight back to his seat. Seeing that my seat was vacated, I had to sit back. I casually put the cold granules in the drawer. Li Xiyang couldn't help sneering when he saw this scene. What? Are you bought off by just a box of medicine? Fangwen, don't you think about what I've given you over the years? He had indeed given me a lot of things. Li Xiyang would give me gifts during festivals, the albums of my favorite stars, limited edition dolls. For my birthday the year before last, he gave me a violin made by a master, and its cost was astonishing. I calculated the approximate amount in my mind before asking him, can you accept installments? What, do you want to take the things back? Or do you want me to give you the money directly? If it's about money, can you accept installments? Li Xiyang was clearly taken aback. He gritted his molars, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Do you think I'm asking you for money? Or are you trying to distance yourself from me? Isn't that what you mean? Li Xiyang didn't say anything. Just as I picked up the test paper to start doing the questions, he suddenly stood up. His movement was so large that the table shook slightly, and the sound attracted others' attention. Even Jiang Wenchuan, who was sleeping in the front, turned his head to look. Under everyone's gaze, Li Xiyang left the classroom with a cold face. Not long after the evening self-study started, the competition teacher came to inform Jiang Wenchuan and me to go to the office to do questions. At this time, Li Xiyang hadn't come back yet. I walked towards the office, and Jiang Wenchuan followed behind me, saying leisurely, "Hey, how are you going to thank me for what happened yesterday?" "Thank you." I was silent for a moment, then tentatively said, "Can I transfer you some money for gas?" Jiang Wenchuan scoffed and muttered in a low voice, "Who cares about your measly money? Then what do you want? Let's make it clear first. I don't have time to do your homework." With the competition approaching, I had to be busy preparing for it and really didn't have time for anything else. I'm not as boring as Li Xiyang. I suddenly remembered that Ji Qingqing did his homework for him every day. No wonder he didn't need me. Don't look at me like that. I pay Ji Qingqing every time. Her mother works for my family. Her family is poor, and I gave her my homework to do out of kindness. It's 100 yuan each time. Thinking about the huge amount of homework in school, I couldn't help but stop. I suddenly felt that I had spoken too soon. If he paid me that money, I wouldn't mind doing it either. Do you still need someone to do your homework? Humph, no need, Jiang Wenchuan snorted. He looked around, and after making sure no one was around, he dragged me to a corner. He suddenly got close to me, making my heart pound. I was forced into the dark corner, with my back already pressed against the wall. His breath sprayed on my face, but I'm still short of a girlfriend. Would you consider it? I fell silent, thinking about whether he was serious. Are you serious? Of course. You, accompanied by a miserable scream, I stepped hard on Jiang Wenchuan's shoe. I didn't know what crazy idea he had, but I didn't have time to think about it. The competition was just around the corner, and I couldn't afford to be distracted at all. Li Xiyang didn't come to school for several days. It was not until the third day that I received a call from his mother. Wenwen, did you quarrel with Li Xiyang? This kid suddenly refuses to go to school and is urging us to send him abroad. A few days ago, I called your mother. She said you couldn't eat or sleep well because of the competition. Auntie still thinks you should consider going abroad with Li Xiyang. You two can take care of each other. As soon as she finished speaking, I heard Li Xiyang's angry shout on the other end of the phone. Go where? She doesn't want to go at all. She can't wait to distance herself from me. Who wants to take her? The phone was hung up with a snap. I rubbed my temples and lowered my head to continue writing on the test paper. Don't you care about him at all? I looked up and saw Ji Qingqing looking at me intently. I heard you and Li Xiyang are childhood sweethearts. He's angry. Don't you need to coax him? I'm very busy. I have my own things to do. I lowered my head and continued to work on the test paper. Ji Qingqing didn't leave. I couldn't help but look up at her. What exactly do you want to say, you? Ji Qingqing clenched the corner of her clothes and finally couldn't help but say in a low voice, could you please stay away from Jiang Wenchuan and stop talking to him? Why? This is a matter between us, isn't it? But I really need him. Ji Qingqing stepped forward and snatched the pen from my hand. To my surprise, the next second, she knelt down in front of me. I beg you, stop talking to him. Don't take him away. Okay, I really need him. Their family promised to pay for my college education, but now your relationship is getting better and better. I'm afraid he'll go back on his word. I beg you, stay away from him, isn't it enough that you have Li Xiyang? I can also promise you that I'll never talk to Lee Si-young again, okay? She knelt in front of me, pleading in a low voice, and her tears were already streaming down. I wanted to help her up, but she kept shaking her head. I won't get up if you don't agree, so, are you morally blackmailing me? I stood up and forcefully pulled Ji Qingqing up, looking her in the eye and saying word by word, do you think what you really need to go to college is the financial support from Jiang Wenxuan's family? I pointed to the test paper on the table. The mid-term exam results had come out. Unexpectedly, Ji Qingqing had dropped from the first place in the grade last time to outside the top 100. The teacher immediately called her to the office to ask about the situation, probably because she was too busy recently, running errands for Lee Si-young and doing Jiang Wenxuan's homework to earn money. She even forgot to review properly the reason why Jiang Wenxuan's family is willing to support you to go to school. Isn't it fundamentally because you're worthy of investment? She was once the top student in the grade, according to Jiang Wenxuan. Her mother had worked for the Jiang family for many years. Ji Qingqing was also watched growing up by the Jiang family. Naturally, it was because of this connection that they were willing to promise to support her to go to school, but she seemed to have overlooked this. If you want to go to college and change your life, you can only do it through your own means, not by relying on others. Whether it was Lee Si-young or Jiang Wenxuan, neither of them was worthy of my reliance. The only thing I needed to do was to carry out the plan I had arranged step by step. Half a month later, Lee Si-young finally returned to school. He started to widely publicize that he was going to study abroad. Some classmates gathered around him, telling him not to forget to keep in touch after going abroad. Someone among them mentioned me. What about Fang Wen? You two have been together for so many years, and now you're going to be separated. I had just come back from the office after asking questions and happened to see this scene. Lee Si-young was uncharacteristically distracted in the crowd. I gave her a chance, but she didn't cherish it. I had no intention of going abroad and just wanted to focus on preparing for the competition. Jiang Wenxuan told me that his family had hired a teacher specifically for the competition. The teacher could come to their home for tutoring every Sunday. I immediately asked if I could go and sit in. Jiang Wenxuan laughed at that time. You were so firm when you rejected me. Now you want to take advantage of me. I shrank my neck and didn't say anything. Countless thoughts flashed through my mind. So what did he want? Could it be that he would only let me sit in if I agreed to something? The next second, Jiang Wenxuan took something out of his bag and threw it at my head. The thing was very light, and it didn't hurt when it hit my head. I picked it up. It was a small card. What's this? It's the access card to my community. Without it, you can't even enter the community. That teacher will be at my home from 3 to 6 p.m. on Sundays. Come if you want to listen. After saying that, Jiang Wenxuan put his hands in his pockets and left, whistling. On Sunday afternoon, I arrived at Jiang Wenxuan's door on time. His house was even bigger than I had imagined. A beautiful noble-looking lady opened the door. As soon as she saw me, her eyes lit up, and she warmly invited me in. Soon the teacher also came and started to explain questions to the two of us. I went to the bathroom once. When I came back, I happened to hear the noble-looking lady on the phone. Our son actually agreed to let a classmate come to the house, but not to play, but to attend classes. What? He has a crush on that little girl. That's useless. Don't you know what your son is like? I heard that little girl is the first in the whole grade. Your son is only good at physics at most. His other grades are really terrible. The noble-looking lady belittled Jiang Wenxuan on the phone. I pretended not to hear and quickly left. Later, an aunt came and brought us a fruit platter. This aunt looked 7/10 similar to Ji Qingqing. This is Ji Qingqing's mother. She has worked for our family for many years. I immediately greeted her. When she heard that Ji Qingqing and I were in the same class, the aunt's face showed more smiles. After the aunt left, Jiang Wenxuan started to complain to me. Good aunts are hard to find these days. My mom said she'd rather someone steal her husband than someone steal her aunt. In order to keep the aunt, my mom has been busy preparing Ji Qingqing's school registration and said she would send her to college. She also asked me to take care of her more at school. While saying this, Jiang Wenxuan was looking at my expression. Hey, aren't you angry? Why should I be angry? Don't you feel jealous? He stood up and stared at me angrily. I've done so much for you. Don't you like me at all? You haven't really done that much. Jiang Wenxuan's eyes widened. Fine, so I've liked an ungrateful person. Okay, it's my own wishful thinking. He turned his head and stopped looking at me. The pen kept stabbing at the paper, making several big holes. What? I poked his arm, and he immediately dodged and looked back at me. Don't try to coax me. I'm not that easy to coax. No, I just wanted to ask if I can Come next week. The location and specific date of the competition were finally determined. On the eve of the competition, the school arranged a hotel for us. The teacher kept encouraging us, telling us not to be nervous. The competition questions were even more difficult than I had expected, but the moment it ended, it felt like a big stone had finally fallen from my heart. The competition ended on Friday. Without hesitation, I immediately asked for 2 days off to rest at home. These days had been so busy that I felt like my brain was about to explode. I slept at home for 2 days. It was not until Saturday night that I suddenly received a strange call. Is this Fong Wen? Lee Si-young is drunk. He won't leave no matter how we call him. Can you come and pick him up? I was a bit surprised. He's drunk. There was some mumbling on the other end, and soon someone replied, yes, he's drunk and keeps calling your name. We can't get him to leave. Come and take him back. The voice on the other end was noisy. Besides the music, I could also hear several people talking. No, I'm busy. You can call his parents. After saying that, I hung up the phone and stared at the clock on the wall in a daze. An hour later, I called Lee Si-young. The other end answered quickly. I thought you were so heartless that you'd leave me in the bar. I heard that there was no more noise on the other end of the phone, and I became more certain. You shouldn't be drunk, right? You've already gone home by now. I knew Lee Si-young's drinking capacity very well. When we were in primary school, we would secretly go to his grandfather's wine cellar to steal wine. Not long after we entered junior high school, his drinking capacity was already better than his father's. A long sigh came from the other end of the phone. After a long silence, he finally said, I'm leaving. I'll go next week. Hearing this news, I felt very calm. Have a pleasant journey. Don't you have anything else to say, like why you want to break off relations with me, why you don't want to go with me? The matter of Lee Si-young going abroad had been decided long ago. At that time, he was so excited after persuading his parents to agree to let him go abroad with me that he came to me and asked me to go with him, but I refused. Since then, our relationship has taken a sharp turn for the worse. I've said it, I can't leave my mother alone in the country, so I'm not important, so you can just abandon me. So what does our relationship over the years mean to you, Lee Si-young? I interrupted him. You know it too, right? Not everyone can accompany someone all the way to the end. We just happened to be on the same path for many years, and there would always come a day when we would part ways. Do you still like me now? A soft murmur came from the other end. Do you still like me as you did before? I took a deep breath and said word by word, no, I don't. I stopped liking him the moment he said the same kind of words as others, but sorry, I think I've fallen for someone else. At that moment, a figure flashed through my mind. After hanging up the phone, I tossed and turned all night. After that, Lee Si-young never came to school again. Anyway, he was going abroad, and the teacher didn't care. Surprisingly, he didn't hold a high-profile farewell party for himself as he used to. Instead, he left with his luggage alone. He didn't inform everyone. Only his parents saw him off at the airport. That desk soon became my exclusive one. The seat next to it was empty. I wasn't sure if the competition would secure me a guaranteed admission, so I had to put all my heart and soul into preparing for the college entrance examination. Ji Qingqing often came to ask me questions. In the latest monthly exam, I still firmly held the first place in the grade, and she finally returned to the top 50 in the grade. Now she didn't think about love-related things at all. She was fully focused on her studies, and her ranking was constantly rising. Jiang Wenquan still hovered at the bottom of the grade, except for physics and mathematics. His scores in other subjects were abysmal, but the competition results came out soon. Before I got the results, a teacher called me. Is this student Fong Wen? This is a teacher from Peking University. I'd like to talk to you about the competition. Unfortunately, she was too late because there was already a teacher waiting downstairs at my house. Later, many teachers came and started to brainwash me, promoting the advantages of their respective schools. After careful consideration, I called Jiang Wenquan. Which university do you plan to go to? Humph, does it matter to you where I go? I looked down at the form in my hand. It listed the teaching staff, scholarships, majors, etc., of various schools as a reference for my choice, but now, there was a most important reference that I hadn't clarified yet. It matters a lot. I want to go to the same university as you. The person on the other end fell silent. I was a bit puzzled and looked at my phone several times to make sure there was no signal problem. Why aren't you talking? After 3 seconds of silence, a scream suddenly came from the other end. I'm willing, I can be with you. Besides the scream, there were also footsteps. I realized what he meant and shook my head repeatedly. No, I meant going to the same university. I don't care. Wait for me. I'm coming to find you right now. The phone hung up. Presumably, he was already on his way. I looked up at the sun by the window, and my mood suddenly became cheerful. After hesitating for a long time, I still sent a message to Lee Si-young. I got guaranteed admission through the competition. It should be late at night there. I didn't expect him to reply. It seems there is a repetition here. Later he and Ji Qingqing met again in the cafeteria, and Ji Qingqing accidentally spilled the hot soup in her hand onto Lee Si-young's branded shirt. This part was already mentioned before and might be a mistake. Ignoring it for translation, Lee Si-young replied with 2 words, "Congratulations, this was good enough." I was grateful to Lee Si-young for accompanying me through the darkest period of my life. It was enough for our memories to be frozen at the most beautiful moment. What I had to do now was to look forward to the future and step into a new stage of life. Fangwen, I heard someone calling me downstairs. I leaned out and looked down. A young man in white was running towards me with a bouquet of flowers. In his hands, the sunlight poured into the room, making it bright. I hoped my future would be like this.